Well, it seems like he's predicting very well United States view of the world, seeing itself as number one, scanning the horizon to see if there is a number two coming up, and then lashing out against it. Or, to put it the other way, maybe United States learn from Thucydides and consider this pure wisdom. Instead of asking the question, how could the two of us cooperate? And simply sit down together and try to find out what makes us great, and what can I learn from you, and what can you learn from me. And that thought seems never to have struck the mind of Thucydides, not for a second. Well, now the biography is, of course, that he was a failed admiral. He came too late for the battle. And that seems to have marked and marred him. And much has been written about it, but I find that less interesting, honestly speaking, his biography. I find more important that he has become a reference point in Western thinking. And you mentioned other names. You mentioned Hobbes, Machiavelli, and Clausewitz. Exactly. And they have also been reference points. And I find these four names on the curriculum for students of political science all over in the West, on Western universities. And there is one name I don't find. It's also a Western philosopher. But he talks about peace all the time. Erasmus Rotterdamus. Erasmus from Rotterdam. I don't find him. In other words, Western students are fed with these four apologists for war, in the sense of seeing war as normal. Thucydides spelling out some conditions. And again, as I point out, not a word from Thucydides about what they could have done more peacefully. Hobbes, of course, is different. For him, it is a question of simply saying that the people down there in society, if you leave to them the society, life will be nasty, brutish, and short. In other words, humans are born violent and will continue like that. They have to be disciplined from the top. And he then puts down some points about how that discipline may happen. Machiavelli looks at it from a different angle. And his angle is simply to say, what makes a prince powerful? And he comes to the conclusion, it is not in any way to be peaceful. It's not to be nice. It is to be strong and instill fear. It is rule based on fear. And when we then come to the last one on this list, Clausewitz, it's almost unbelievable. You know, when he says his famous saying, war is the continuation of politics by other means, he is trivializing war. It just becomes a kind of continuation, but politics by and large is non-violent. It may be very violent verbally, but it's by and large non-violent. And then to simply see war as a continuation, when war is by definition violent. Well, you can say his point is that if you march into somebody else's territory, that is not war. That is just a conquest. You don't get a war before the other guy starts defending himself. In other words, making the conquered territory, actor, state, person, the one who starts the war, not the one who advances into his domain. Now, that's fairly tricky and typical for Clausewitz. So in doing that, he trivializes war and he puts the blame on the other side. And all of these people, Nako, that is what amazes me. You were mentioning the names, Thucydides, Hobbes, Machiavelli, Clausewitz. They are considered wise people. They are considered philosophers. And most basically, they are on the curriculum of any political science department in the West. If I look at that curriculum, I don't find Erasmus Rotterdamus, because he's not of their ilk. He's different. And you can say, God bless the West, at least there was one outstanding person who had peace on his agenda, and not this perennial war. Definitely, but I'm going back to these people. Now, Immanuel Kant, the ewige Friede. You are, of course, very right. And very important, he had a vision. And the vision was, in a certain sense, to write his philosophy big as world philosophy. And you know, he had a saying which was very important. You shall only act in such a way that the maxim, if you will, the theory, the essence of your action could serve as the basis in a world constitution. In other words, universalization. However, there is a problem here. Immanuel Kant was living in Königsberg in East Prussia, and it is not quite obvious that the thinking in Königsberg in East Prussia is valid as thinking for the whole world. It could be that there are parts of the world that think differently, and there certainly are. And so, having said that, the universalization which was inherent, implicit in Kant's thinking, is not something we can accept today. Much better is to look at peaceful aspects of the philosophy in all cultures, in all civilizations, and promote them and try to link them together by actions of positive peace.